Hey guys, welcome to the start of another project. Now, I seem to have misplaced the footage I recorded a few days ago to start off this project with, so things are going to be a little bit out of sequence here to get started. So I've already got the chassis pulled out and the picture tube out up on top of the cabinet, but in the next segment they're going to be back inside. What I explained in the lost footage is that this set and this radio were dropped off recently, and I talked about them in a preview of upcoming projects. This is a 21-inch Stromberg Carlson from around 1955. Quite heavy, so I took the chassis out on the back porch, as you'll see in the next segment. Picture tube tests very good. Cabinet is solid maple, which adds to the weight, as does this massive 21-inch pitch tube, because it is a low deflection angle, so very, very long. Alright, so we're going to pick up on the next segment where I've got the set tilted on its side in preparation for undoing the bolts and pulling the chassis out. I got the set on its side now, and we can see more of that pretty maple wood. And we also get a sneak peek at the chassis, because it's got cutouts on the bottom. No doubt there used to be a piece of mesh over this to protect it. That looks like it's probably a replacement. And there's looks to be a nasty oozing cap right there. Otherwise, it's probably, let's see, original. Also notice there's a lot of ceramic disc caps. That's what you'll see. As things progressed more and more into the 50s, you start seeing fewer and fewer paper caps and more ceramics. So it might not be a whole lot of recapping to do, which is cool. Also looks like all the electrolytics might be mounted below the chassis, which will make working on them a lot easier. No twist locks to undo from the chassis. Alright, and I gotta sock it out, and I'm starting to get these bolts off, and then hopefully the whole thing will just come out. Whew, well, I got it inside. It's actually not as heavy as I feared, but it is heavy. Bigger deal though is it's pretty darn awkward. For sure, it'd be way easier to work on this with the CRT out. You kind of got to weigh the thing, or no pun intended, but weigh the pros and cons of taking the CRT out, because you're going to put it back in and make sure everything's aligned pretty well, you know. Make sure that the picture's centered right in the yoke and everything. This looks pretty doable though, because the yoke is mounted to this, and this is going to stay put. So, yeah, I'm inclined to get that out of here. So you can see I have a overhanging equipment shelf on my workbench, and with this being so high, it kind of bumps into that. Well, before I do though, I will give it a go at tilting this thing on its side and seeing how it is to work on it. I notice this wire going around to the front. Quite sure what that's. Oh, it's the speaker wire. Alright. And some tag. Probably some production changes, or these are other models, because you can see there's some unused holes up there. Looks like those would have been for tube sockets. Alright, and I'm going to peek down here. So, yeah, not all that big a flyback considering how big this cage is. These CRTs may be really big, but they don't use a whole lot more voltage than their smaller counterparts. I think it's aluminized. Okay, so I can just barely get it on its side and still have it on my workbench, but a little precarious. I don't want to put pressures at strange angles on the CRT, so I am going to remove it. That's a safer way to do it. But before I do, let's take a quick peek underneath the chassis. Alright, so there's a cap I was thinking. Looked a little dubious. In fact, it's been cut out of the circuit. used to be going right here. So these are certainly easy to get at. So this, I think those, yeah, those are all the electrolytics, which, that's easy. That's easy enough. Let's hope everything else is good, like vertical output transformer blocking oscillator transformers and so on. A few bumblebee caps. These gotta go, especially the ones right on the AC line. Those tend to go pop. Don't see anything too horrible looking. What I'm inclined to do, or what I'm going to do, is once I get the CRT out of here, is clip these off. Take out the high voltage, or the 5U4 rectifier tube, and fire this up. Tell me if the power switch is good, if the power transformer low voltage secondary is good by seeing all the tubes light up. High voltage secondary I can test with a multimeter unloaded, but generally if they test okay without load and the transformer doesn't get toasty, that's probably alright. In fact, I've yet to find a bad power transformer TV. There's the bottom of the very deep high voltage box. Alright, so another order of business is to dig up the service info. So I look at the front, there's a speaker. Phone looks to be in very good condition. Interesting way the controls are mounted, they kind of have die-cast metal things around them. Clunker tuner. Yeah, it looks very familiar, like a good old standard turret tuner. Big spring here and a clunker wheel. Alright. I don't see any reasons at all to not proceed with this project. I got the CRT out without too much trouble. Just had to loosen up a couple wing nuts. Plastic mounts. That was kind of interesting. I've only seen metal before. I guess plastic was getting to be good enough. They could use it for more sturdy applications. And the yoke was a little bit tough to get off because of the deteriorating nature of it. But with this loosened and the yoke unmounted, so to pop off the high voltage lead and took it right out. And I finally saw the number. It is a 21 XP4. And as near as I can tell, it is aluminized. It does look like it's reflective around the edges here. Alright, so put that out of the way for safekeeping, and now I can get a better look at it. So this is definitely different from anything I've worked on, that's for sure. I mean, the actual circuitry isn't, but the chassis layout is for sure. Also notice very, very little Aquadag coating, just a little collar around here. I guess that's all the capacitive high voltage filtering they needed. So no doubt there's going to be one, if not two, high voltage door caps somewhere under here to provide additional high voltage filtering. Oops. These rubber pads just fell off. Or vinyl, whatever this is. It's an okay condition. Just cushion the CRT. So yeah, as I was saying, I'm gonna pop this guy out and see about plugging this in and see if the tubes light up. Okay, all set up here, and here we go. Yep, tubes are lighting up slowly. Cool. Let's see about secondary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, that looks pretty reasonable. 650 volts AC on the two plates of the 5U4. I think we are in business. Yeah, because those electrolytics under there looked a bit ugly, I'm not going to attempt to do a power-up right now like I did with the last TV I worked on. Instead, I would like to replace those electrolytics, especially since they're so easy to get at, and I know I'm going to be doing it anyway, so I might as well just go ahead and get it done. So what I'm going to do next, once I get the electrolytics replaced, I think I will attempt to power up. And instead of that gigantic CRT, I can try using this little guy. Doesn't quite hold up too well though, but I'll see what I can do. Maybe get some foam blocks or something to kind of hold this up. Certainly not going to reinstall that giant CRT every time I want to power this setup. I haven't tracked down a Sam's 258 folder yet, but clearly there's a 21 stamped on it. And from Beatman's most often needed 1955, I found a Stromberg Carlson 21T. And when I look at the tube chart, it clearly matches this chassis. So let's take a quick look at the schematic here. There's the optional UHF tuner, which it does not have, so we get the VHF input here. 6 BZ7 RF amp, 6 U8 oscillator mixer, 6 CB6 used in the IF amps. It says inter-carrier sound, so common IF for both sound and video. 5 picofarad pickoff here for the sound, through some 6AU6s, 6T8 to a 6W6 audio output tube. And we had a 6AU6 followed by a 12 BY7 for the video. Driving at 21XP4A, CRT. And down here, 6SN7 vertical oscillator, 6S4 vertical output, 6 CS6 sync separator, 6AU6 keyed AGC, so not that keyed AGC, something a little different. And phase detector, 6SN7 horizontal oscillator, 6BQ6 horizontal output, and there's the flyback, and will be 3 rectifier, 6AX4 damper, and there's the power supply, very conventional, 5U4, pi filter, giving B+ to the set. So yeah, it's pretty typical for a mid-50s TV. They had things pretty well worked out by then, just a standard clunker tuner. So I'm just going to start diving into this, and first thing I want to do is take care of all these filter caps. Thanks to a friend, I got a copy of Sam's Stromberg Carlson. Clearly it's the same set, dated November 1954. So this one is a little bit later than I initially thought. Late 54 it would seem. And this matches my set perfectly. This is the main reason I wanted it. It wasn't just for the schematic, but for the parts placement diagram, because I know some work has been done, and now I can clearly see there should only be those 2 caps, and the one that I found down in here was definitely added later on. So I'm going to print some of this out, especially the capacitor parts placement diagram, and use that as a guide to help me do the recapping. Now this one is a little bit different. I need to be a little bit careful because notice this thing here. That is an extra tuner. That is for a radio option, I believe, and might very well explain the cutouts on the knobs. I'm thinking that one of them is for, or maybe that's a UHF option. I think about it. Maybe it's not a radio option. But there's a cutout I'll show you on the knobs. And I was wondering what the heck that's for. I suspected it was for a UHF option, and I think this pretty well confirms that is why they have that cutout. This is what I was talking about. I'm thinking in a UHF version you would put the inner channel clunker to the UHF position, and when you turn the fine tuning, you'd see numbers going by here that would indicate the channel number. But in this version, it really seems to serve no purpose.